But, okay.
I didn't rehearse either, so
Okay.
I couldn't rehearse to talk to you. Yeah.
That's true. Well, I really wanted to talk to you because I'm going to be moving and I probably won't see you for a while. So I think something that has been on my mind for a few months has been that I feel a lot of fear about pursuing the truth. And
What's the fear come from?
I don't know, there's so many levels to it, not fear of not existing, I guess, ultimately.
Oh, the fear of experiencing that.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I have, I think, had some taste of it. And
Yeah.
I know that's the only place that I want to live from, and that's what I want.
Isn't that curious?
Yeah. But then I find myself distracting myself all the time from it and trying to just kind of go unconscious and be like everybody, even though I know that's not satisfying.
Yeah. It's not really an option for you.
What?
Being like everybody. I mean, in one sense, we're all like everybody, right? Mm-hmm. But in another sense, you've seen things that not everybody has seen. You've experienced things that not everybody's experienced. So it changes the way you see life, right?
Exactly.
In a way. And that doesn't always, in fact, it doesn't often fit in with a lot of the people around you, right? You're seeing things a little bit differently. Once you've seen, you can't unsee. Mm-hmm. We can distract ourselves and pretend,
right?
Because something in us, we're so hooked up, so social, we're such social animals in a certain way, beings, that we have this old tribal tendency. We want to fit in, we want to fit in, we want to fit in. Right. And the strange thing is, about the more conscious we become, this is another one of those dualities that come together. And what I mean by that, the more conscious we become, the fewer and 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 way fewer people that are going to understand you or have any notion of how you see life. Right. So you're going to feel more and more and more and more and more and more and more alone. The other part of that, though, the paradoxical part, is the more we relax into that aloneness, the more and more we get in touch with our unity, our deep connectedness, that even though someone's not seeing things as I do, I'm actually completely not separate with them. Right. They're actually the same as I am, right? So that beautiful paradox, where experience holds paradox easily, doesn't it? It's just like, it's obviously so. But in the mind, it's easy for the mind to get sort of go from one point to the other, like, right. Oh, nobody understands me, and then temporarily you lose the sense of, but there's an underlying unity, and it's strange because we don't normally expect that we're going to find unity through completely stepping into our own aloneness.
Exactly.
I mean, who could have ever expected that?
Right?
Yeah.
And I have, especially after retreats with you, I actually have really felt that.
Yeah.
But it goes away.
It seems to go away. It seems to go away. And what I mean when I say it seems to go away is, of course, it's very natural. You've been around this enough to know that people have this kind of, they open up, they see things, they experience things, and then later it says it's disappeared. It seems like a memory, right? Yeah. There's a phenomena that's going on in there that's useful to have some recognition of or understanding of, is going away. The experience that my view that I had is going away or disappearing. It's what's really happening in a certain sense. It's calling you to go with it. In other words, it's calling you to go into a very subtle, quiet place. And if you don't go, you start to feel like you've lost something. Right? Because we relate to a certain experience as its obviousness, its power, its beauty, it's all of that. And unconsciously we think, that's beautiful. And that's how I know I'm in the truth. And that's how I recognize it, right?
Right.
But that's not necessarily what existence has in mind. It kind of, in other words, it's extraordinarily intelligent. It knows exactly what to do to get your attention. Boom, here's reality. We'll throw it right at you. So obvious you can't possibly miss it. And we go, wow, I've been graced, right? And then it seems to retreat, pull away a little bit. And what most of us do is we stay right where we were, right where we are, and go, oh my God, it's disappearing. Did it ever occur that you could actually disappear with it? Go into the subtlety, into the quietness, into the stillness. Because I can guarantee you everything you've ever realized is actually still completely present at this instant as much as it ever was. It's there.
Wow.
All of it. Every single bit of it. There's no such thing as reality disappearing. Where would it go?
That's a good
Do you know what I mean? Or we think, I have left it. Where did you go? Could you go? Does unreality exist? Can you actually go to this place called unreality? Because if you could go there and if it existed, then it wouldn't be unreal, would it?
That's a good point.
Right? So the truth cannot disappear, really. One's consciousness of it can seem to disappear. But then you say, well, why is it that it seems to disappear? Why does I become unaware of it if it's here? Mm-hmm. What's happening? And there's a movement in spirituality. It's almost where the divine gets your attention with very powerful, obvious realizations. And then at a certain point, you never know when it is, it's like the game shifts. Instead of you being given all the time, it's like now you're coming. And coming closer doesn't mean like you're pursuing or you're moving, but you're actually following it into its stillness, into its subtlety. Right? It pulls you out of a coarser state of consciousness into something more and more subtle and more refined. But usually we don't know that, number one. And so we just think, I lost it.
Right.
But when you start to see that you're actually, in order to stay in connection with it, you can't expect to be sort of overwhelmed by it or it's really being presented really obvious. You've got to go into that subtlety with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you do that, you stop relating to it sort of as an experience. You just go with it in a sense. I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah,
you just kind of
it
go
does.
with it into that quietness.
And I think that's where I start feeling fear. And I've heard you talk about fear so much, and I feel like I should get this by now, but I feel like I'm not relating to it somehow. And not that there's a right way, but in a useful way.
Mm-hmm. Well, really, the only useful way to relate to this kind of fear is to just not avoid it. Fear. Mm-hmm. So if you had bliss, you wouldn't be up here going, Adya, I have this problem, you see. Every time I get close to the truth, I have a lot of bliss. And it's just so blissful, and I'm so ecstatically happy and just infused with a sense of well-being. So, what should I do about this? Isn't it, I don't have people coming to me with those dilemmas, right? Usually, that's usually at the point that they stop asking me questions. For a while, anyway. But then we get something like fear, and we relate to that experience very differently, right? And the way we relate to it instinctively is to push it away. But it's just fear. All it is a waking nightmare. And if you want any proof of that, I mean, you can experience that fear. I'm sure you have experienced that fear. You can experience here now. You can experience in a room by yourself. You can experience when actually nothing's happening. Isn't that fascinating? Nothing's actually happening. I've seen people at retreats. They'll be meditating, and they've had a few people. And they've had so much fear. I've watched them pass out.
I've actually done that.
What's that?
I've done that.
Okay, there you go. So you pass out, and you're in a meditation hall, right?
Right.
And what's happening?
Nothing.
Oh, nothing's happening.
Right.
Like nothing's. And I'm not. That doesn't mean I'm dismissing what you're experiencing. Of course, one can have fear, but it's when you start to see. This is like a very, very intense waking nightmare. There actually isn't a threat here. Mm-hmm. It's a nightmare. And see, if you got it, put yourself in my position. Having been through these nightmares, I know that they're nightmares, right? So what are you going to say to someone like you if you know that it's a nightmare? Although it doesn't mean you don't have compassion and understanding, but you know that really there is no external or existential threat. It's just the way your mind is relating to a given experience, and it's causing a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. Now, if somebody's dreaming, what do you tell them? You go inside their dream. You worm your way into their dream, and what are you going to say to them?
You're dreaming, wake up.
You're dreaming, right? And of course, what are they going to say to you?
No, I'm not. This is real.
That's right. You don't understand. I have fear, and my fear is proof of how real it is. Right? So that's the dilemma, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But, so I couldn't possibly convince you of anything, except otherwise to point out that it's all a hall of mirrors. That's all it is.
And there's times that I feel like I have experienced it and not pushed it away, and I totally see that. But then it keeps coming up.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I must not be doing something right.
Oh, you can't not do it right. Okay. Don't worry about it. You don't have the control to do it wrong.
That's true.
You really don't have to worry about not doing it right. That's one of our predominant dreams. I've got control, you see, and God could want me to do one thing, but I'm much stronger and more powerful, and I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do this wrong thing. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? The divine is all powerful and all knowing, but me, little me. Do you see?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like, I'm going to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. No, it's impossible. It's like if a character in a novel you're reading suddenly became conscious of itself. And it's like, oh my God, I can make a mistake. And of course, you wrote the novel. You can't make a mistake. You see, you don't. I'm the author, not you.
Well, that's a big relief.
So our minds aren't they amazing? They can just go. They create one dilemma after another dilemma, and then I must be doing something wrong because this fear comes back. Is it true? Do you know you're doing something wrong? You see how quickly it takes you back? How could I know if I'm doing something wrong? If it's coming back because I'm doing something wrong? It comes back until the capacity is within you. There is a capacity that grows in people. This is what I've watched. There's a capacity. It's something that grows without you trying to make it grow, without you knowing how to. It just grows because you experience things on a deeper level. And this capacity that grows, and the capacity that I'm talking about it's that within you that in the face of a fear of your own total annihilation, even if it gets that, big, there's a capacity at a certain point that has matured that just says, okay, I'll die. Now, of course, it's all a dream and nothing's actually happening and nothing's actually at stake. But at that moment, that doesn't do you any good, does it? At that moment, you're either ready and willing or you're not. And you know if you're willing because at the moment you're willing, at the moment it's okay, the fear is gone like that. It just, because the fear has no other source of its energy other than your resistance to it. So as soon as your resistance disappears, the experience, the fear cannot maintain itself because it's getting all of its juice from you. Because after all, it's your mind's dream, isn't it? And when you see that, it's an amazing thing to see. You know, I can explain it, but you really see it. That my own fear is literally drawing all of its energy from my resistance to it. And my belief that it's actually real. That what it's threatening me with is actually true and real. And when you stop believing that, you'll start to feel in your experience the fear just won't have... It's like there's no plug anymore in you. There's nowhere for it to connect. It may rise, but then it falls. And then it'll rot, and it just falls. It's very fascinating when you start to experience it that way. It rises, and then literally it just falls. And when it's rising, it's trying to get your attention. Resist me, please. Resist me, please.
Right.
So that I can continue to rise, you see. But if you look at me and go, fear, okay, fear. You know? We blow it all out of proportion in spiritual circles. It's the death of the ego. Well, a lot of it is about the death of the ego, the death of the me, but remember, there's no such thing. You see? There isn't a me who suddenly gets obliterated. You know, unless you think waking up from a dream, I suppose that's a certain type of obliteration of the dream, but that's not very dramatic kind of obliteration, is it? No. It's like, I just woke up. If you wanted to really impress people, then you say, my dream was obliterated. Do you see what I mean? And then it sounds spiritual and makes you look important. Yeah. But if you say, actually, I just kind of woke up and I don't have a nightmare anymore. Right? But at the moment, I know how real it feels. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I wish you well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I know I've gone way over time. At least theoretically, anyway. Part of what spiritual unfolding is, we often talk about it only in this aspect of its realizations and its aha moments and all of that. But part of what's happening in these realizations that we don't know often, but we later come to realize, is we are actually opening on a deeper and deeper and deeper level. And as you open on a deep level, you're literally opening the top of the unconscious is being pried apart. And it's opening up. And there's a part of that gets out that is all those scary, terrifying experiences, not just of the past, but they're often of just the ego, the state that the ego unconsciously is in all the time, which is in a state of great anxiety and fear. Now, most people, they're relatively good at suppressing that, so most of that's underneath their conscious level. But if you go deep enough, all that opens up. And when it opens up, we either run from it and think something terrible has happened, or we realize It's just the unconscious and all the fears and hesitations and doubts and the darkness and all that, and it's opened up, and the only thing that it wants, the only thing that's necessary, is to let it all arise, all come up in the light of consciousness. That's what it wants. It wants that light as much as you want that light. All confusion wants light, even if it says it doesn't. And so when that arises, that's when people hit sometimes their most existential, deepest fears, doubts, anxieties, and one can really get trapped in them. But if you really see, it's just the opening up of one's deepest unconscious. And the less you make out of it, the less you push it away or grab it, pull it towards you, the less you give it meaning, the more you just allow it to do what it's doing, which is to reveal itself to consciousness. That's all it does. It all reveals itself, and then there's nothing more to reveal, and there's nothing left. And it all got freed, because that's what consciousness does. What it touches, it frees. So when it really touches fear, without us grasping and trying to hide, it frees the fear. It liberates the fear, It's one of those unexpected parts of spirituality that people don't count on, That's where we get all of our notions of like hells and devils and demons. Those are all symbolic representations of the unconscious. That's all they are. And it unloads. And if you grasp it and believe in it, then you believe in all that stuff, and it seems to be very real. And if you see it for what it is, a waking nightmare, has no power. Buddha had to see this under the Bodhi tree. Jesus saw it 40 days in the desert. I mean, this is very typical mythological motif. It's not just for guys and gals 2,000, 3,000 years ago. This same thing happens to people present day, right here, right now. Except the thing is, when it happens to you, it's not quite as romantic. Right? It's very gritty and it's very real, and it's not the Buddha reaching out to the ground for some support when things were getting really quite intense. And the Buddha, okay. But when it's you, and you're digging holes in the dirt, it's a little more gritty and it's real. But if you just remember, beings for hundreds and thousands of years have gone through the same stuff. That's why all these old motifs, you see them all over in religions and of thousands and thousands of years ago, right up to the present moment. And it's as if in some kind way, different people left behind these little breadcrumbs, as if to say, look, I was here. A lot of people have been here. So many people you couldn't possibly imagine. Don't worry. It might be scary, but everything's okay. And much more okay than you could ever possibly imagine. Ever. And it's very nice that some of them left some of these beautiful mirrors and truths behind for us. Nice to be with you. Namaste.